Welcome back to nunosolutions.com. In episode 8, I'm going to show you what the difference is between a left and a right join in SQL Server. When you use a left or right join to combine two or more tables, you're trying to pull all the records from one table, regardless of whether there is a match or not on the other table. So in this example, I'm going to show you how to join two tables. And the two tables I'm going to use are going to be jobs and employees. An employee can have one or many jobs. Let's just take a quick look at what data we have in the jobs table. In the jobs table, we have 3 jobs currently. 1, 2, 3. And all the jobs except for one of them don't have an employee associated with them. The third job, install Cisco router, is associated with employee ID 1. Now let's look at the employees table. And we have 8 employees, and you can see here the first record is employee ID 1, which points to John Doe. So let's write a query to pull all the jobs, all the 3 jobs, regardless of whether or not we have an employee associated with it. To do that, we're going to select, and I'm just going to specify here the columns for the job, but I'm not going to include every single one of these. Let's just get rid of these extra columns here. So we want job ID, job type, created date, and employee ID. We're going to say from jobs. And we're going to, for now, we're just going to inner join employees. And we're going to join it on where job.employee ID equals employee.employee ID. And now, obviously, you see the little squiggly lines here, so we just have to reference the jobs alias here. And I'm also going to add the first name and the last name of the employee, right? So let's run this query and see what we get. So when we run this query, we're returning only one job. That's because we're using an inner join, and an inner join by default will return only the rows that match that match by the columns that you're joining on. So if we wanted to return all the jobs, to do this, we would use a left join. And I'm just going to run this to prove that this works. And you can see here, if you run this query, now you get all the 3 jobs that are in the jobs table, even though you don't have a matching employee for all of them. The reason why this works is because if I put this like this, a left join, the keyword left means that the table that's to the left of the join is going to return all records regardless of whether there's a match on the join column. And it's only going to return the columns from the right side or the right table where there's a match. So you can see here, all the jobs are being returned, which is the left side of the join, and only the matching employees are returned from the right side. Now, if we were to, if we wanted to use a right join instead of a left join, well, let's just see. If we do a right join here and just change this, the result's going to be different. And you'll see what's happening here is that we're returning all the employees. I'm just going to move this up. You see we have 8 records because there are 8 employees. And we're literally returning every single employee because a right join says return all the records from the table on the right side of the join, regardless of whether or not there is a match by the column that's their 2 tables are being matched on, and only return the columns on the left that match. And so you can see here, you have null for all the jobs for all these employees, because none of these employees here, starting with number 2 down to number 8, none of them are associated with a job. But because employee ID 1 is associated with a job, when you do a join like this, it'll return you the job that is associated with that employee. So interesting though, if you swap, so like as an example, let's just do a left join here, back to the way we had it. So we can return just all the jobs with, I'll return all the jobs regardless or not if they're associated with an employee, right? Now, if you were to move these columns from one side to the other, put jobs on the right and put employees on the left, and you execute this, you're going to get the result set that you got before when we had a right join. So if you notice here how we're returning all the employees, and regardless whether or not there is a job associated with them. But if there is a job associated with them, it returns the job that's associated with them. That's because the left join is saying return all employees, regardless of if there's a join or not. And it is. You see all the employees here are being returned, right? And then return jobs if they match, and if they don't match, doesn't matter. We still want to return all employees because anything to the left of the join is going to be returned. So that's the difference between a left join and a right join. And I typically only use left join, but in some situations when you have a lot of tables joining together, when you're using multiple joins, because you could actually do this. I just want to demonstrate. Let me just switch this back. Let me move the actually I'll leave it like this. I'm gonna just, you could actually do another, as an example, let's say you could do another left join to companies, for example. And this is my point. You could join more than one table, as many tables as you want, really. And we say company ID equals e.company ID. And now you're joining 1, 2, 3 tables, right? If you wanted to, you can add the company name up here, right? Deleted that column by mistake. Okay, so let's add this, execute this. And now you could also see, because we're left joining companies, that we're still returning all the employees no matter what. And if there's a job, we return the job. And if there's a company, return the company. And you see here that only the first employee is linked to a company. So let's just look at the employee data one more time. And let's look to see if you look here, you can see the employee ID 1 is the only one that's associated with a company. Now, if I wanted to, for example, associate employee ID 2, right? And by the way, you see this column is null. That's because we're pulling employee ID from the jobs table. If we pull this from employee table, you'd actually see the employee ID, and that's probably more proper. Let's edit one of these employees and just associate, for example, this second employee here. Let's associate them with company 2. Let's just make sure we have a second company. Company 1, 2, and 3. Okay, we're good. And now we just associated employee ID 2 with company ID 2. So if we run this now, what we should see is this record here, instead of it not having a company, it should populate company. You see? But you see here, we now have this employee ID 2, Marco Pereira, associated with company 2, right? But still, there's no job. And this is the point, because we're returning company from the company table and we're returning the job information from the job table. It'll only output that information if the join is successful. Now, if we did an inner join here, here's an interesting thing to see. Notice how all the records have disappeared from all the employees that were not associated with the company have disappeared. So this is how you can mix match left and inner joins to output the correct data set or result set that you want based on the relationships of the tables. Thanks for watching, guys. That's it for now. Take care.